Graviton training session. This is our fifth Graviton training. I hope you all have claimed your POAPs. If you haven't claimed your POAPs, please, you can DM me and I will send the link for the trainings you've assisted. Because the idea is that at the end of the training, the people who can present their POAPs can enter into the organization that we're trying to build. That is an organization that aims to provide alternative dispute resolution into the DAO ecosystem. And we have first we started with theories, theories of nonviolent communication, of spiral dynamics, of theories of conflict management, theories of negotiation, and how to reach an agreement. Last session, we had an exercise, a role play to reach an agreement here in the training. And in this training, I think it's a very special session because we have Olivia with us that is going to be our guest speaker. And she's someone who from whom I've learned so much, and from the work that she's been doing in soft governance and trying to apply Ostrom principles is where like gravity found a place and like got leveraged and supported, felt supported with this working group. So she's going to talk to us about some of the insights that she has had leading this working group of soft governance and culture, and also some of the insights she has had from her experience and from reading and studying and applying Ostrom's principles. So without no further ado, Lily, I give you the word.
Thank you so much, Juan. I feel very, very honored to be here and very grateful to you. Also a little bit nervous, and I think this is a good space to feel vulnerable and settle in a little bit with what we're feeling. So I invite everyone silently to check in with yourself and how you're feeling in this moment. So I'm gonna share my screen. YGG, can you mute, please? I'm just getting some
sorry about that.
feedback. Thank you. Okay, so I put up a small presentation, but this is gonna be more of a talk. And if you have anything to say and you wanna jump in at any moment, feel free to interrupt me. So soft governance and culture, for who doesn't know, soft governance first is a term that comes from hard governance. So now that we have so many on-chain governance, we needed a term for what decisions happen off-chain in this on-chain environments that we're building. So soft governance deals with all the off-chain governance and decisions and the understandings that we need to be a self-managing group and to be organized. So this has a lot to do with culture. Because we are cultural beings, we come from different cultural environments, and especially having digital commons, digital organizations where we're meeting from all over the world right now in this call. It brings this new framework that we need to take into consideration. So I'm going to start talking about the three influential models that Ostrom presents to us. For who is not familiar, this is Governing the Commons from Elinor Ostrom. So she won the Nobel Prize in 2009 for economics for giving alternatives to these three influential models. So from these models, so much of our political and economical and social political systems were built on top of these models, and basically the inability we have they talk in different ways about a very similar problem, that is the free rider problem, that we're still gonna get there. So the first, maybe many of you have heard of already. It's a buzzword in the crypto space, that is the tragedy of the commons. But what is the tragedy of the commons? Is it comes from this is actually a very old thought, and Aristotle had already stated that what is commons to the greatest number has the least care bestowed upon it. So yeah, basically whenever value is to all, that we don't value this, and this has so many cultural implications we can start to think about, because why do I only value something that is exclusive? Why do I only value something that is privileged? Why do we have this separation in the way we empower each other? So this is very much the construction of the power structures we have, and who has more power has more capacity of excluding others from something they have. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with the commons, that is to not exclude others and still have a beneficial outcome from the shared resources. And then another thing that is stated about the tragedy of the commons is that wealth that is free for all is valued by no one, because he who is foolhardy enough to wait for its proper time of use will only find that it has been taken by another. This is a concept that Ostrom works a lot in, and she calls it wait, disappeared of my mind. Discount rates. So you can have low discount rates and high discount rates. High discount rates, they mean that you are only looking for the short-term benefit of whatever you're doing. And when you have low discount rates, is that you're looking for the long term. So we've been trying to create systems where people culturally care long term about the wealth that is free and shared. So can wealth be free? Why is this so untangible in our minds? Why is this concept so crazy to understand? Because we have been so conditioned to think that wealth is only something that is excludable. So my takes on this is that we are why we don't care also about what is free. Why do we want to take it so quickly? Because maybe it won't be enough for us. So in my opinion, we are so far from the decision making of most of the things in our life, or at least the idea of decision making is very far away, that it becomes abstract. So if I can't make decisions about the water that I receive, I probably don't care so much about the provision of the water. Like if it's provided to me and I'm receiving it, I don't know what are the decisions that are around it, but I know that someone far away is taking care of this. This makes so many of the decisions abstract, far away from me. so detached from this and detached from the understanding of how these resources come into being, I identify with their scarcity or with their, how do I say, with their unrealistic abundance. So both of this are not so good and would lead to a tragedy of the commons, because if I understand all the work necessary to grab the water and put in the field that it's gonna make my food grow, I would care so much more about how much water I use. And I would see where the water is coming from. I would see how much there is available and what is the effort with what is the effort attached to it. So one thing we've been very careful to implement in the TEC is that everyone feels very close to the decisions, to the issues that they would have to make decisions on. So we are in this process of understanding the rules and the boundaries, but we are doing this together because we are all going to use from this resource. There are already so many resources that we are sharing collectively. So having this understanding of what are all the decisions I'm taking in the everyday, and decisions don't mean only like voting or deliberately saying yes or no to something. Decisions can also be more subtle and come in conversations. You made a decision to come to this call today. How many decisions do you make in a day? When you pick between eating an apple and a banana that are in front of you, you pick one of them because of some reason that, of course, not all of these reasons you're gonna think about them, but some of them that are very influential on our steps, it's really important to bring them to our awareness. Therefore, you understand more what is governing you. So by understanding the decisions I take, I understand also what are the decisions I can't make and why, and how far I am from them. Is there any questions on the tragedy of the commons, or any thoughts on this, or I can pass to the next one? Okay. So the second dilemma she talks about is the prisoner's dilemma. It's kind of a variant of the tragedy of the commons, and it's by the same author. So in the prisoner's dilemma, each player has a dominant strategy in the sense that the player is always better off choosing this strategy no matter what the other player chooses. So imagine the example she gives a lot is of these farmers, and they have a certain number of cows that they can put in that field, but the field can only feed as many cows. So if they put a lot of cows and there's not enough food, the cows will die and they will not get the profit from what they would of like the milk or the meat, or what, how are they um, uh, relating with the cow. So it's expected that, knowing that they have a limited resource that is the food for the cows, that they would both want to like maybe put 3 cows each, and then they would both get the full benefit of those cows, and the cows would be super well fed. But in a prisoner's dilemma, it's they call it a non-cooperative game. So there are many variants that are most around communication, that communication wasn't inserted in this game as a super important piece. So maybe they won't communicate. If they communicate, they don't have the understanding that they need to provide rules for how they're going to share that space. Maybe they're too far away. The cows go like further than um, their communication, and it ends up that one of them thinks, oh, if I put 6 cows here, all of my cows will eat very well, but then the other guy's cows won't have any of that food. But then if the other guy also thinks, oh, I'm just going to put 6 cows here and my cows will eat very well. So what happens from both of them choosing the dominant strategy for each one of them is that the outcome for both is less optimal than if they had collaborated. But for some reason, they still don't choose to collaborate. And this is the paradox that so many scholars go crazy about. There's like 200,000 essays about the prisoner's dilemma. Academics cannot understand why individually rational strategies lead to collective irrational outcomes. This challenges a fundamental faith that rational human beings can achieve rational results. And it talks a lot, when I was reading this, it talks a lot about rational, in the tragedy of the commons too, and the logic of collective action too. And those words started to be like annoying, like why does the human being is immediately attached to rationality? It's almost like what differs us from any other animal is that we are rational. But when I look up rational, the etymology of the word comes from ratio, that is a quantitative measure. So we are talking about human beings that are complex systems on itself in a rational ratio quantitative way, and expecting the best outcome when we only look to this variable. And the state has only been looking to this variable, and the firms have only been looking to this variable, and then it becomes like, oh my, go this far on this line. So how does it look to cooperate beyond rational choices? What are other variables that are in place, and how can we start adding qualitative variables to human interactions? Because there's so much of our interactions that are towards quality over quantity, and even in their relationship of this two guys and their farms, there are so much that wasn't considered of their relationship, of their backgrounds, of their family situation. So many variables that could be more qualitative, that if we had that information, maybe creating another type of game where it would be optimal for both of them in an easy way could be the best choice. So rationality often excludes very important variables of the human behavior, and this is a huge problem of theoretical work when it comes to practical implementation. And this is a lot what governing the commons is about, is a lot of empirical, like on the ground experiments to bring more insights than the limited theoretical material that we had so far to look into this. So the logic of collective action, that is the third one, is talking mostly about the free rider problem. So it says, one who cannot be excluded from obtaining the benefits of a collective good once the good is produced has little incentive to contribute voluntarily to the provision of that good. So yeah, it's that kind of thing of like when you were in school and the teacher would say, "Oh, go in groups of 5 people," and then there was always the people, or maybe you were this person, or like there's always the one that will look for the nerds of the class and will say like, "Oh, I'll go with them because then I don't have to do anything because they will do all for me." And because it's a group, everyone is getting the grades, um, and there's always, this is such a classic dilemma even with kids. So this makes me question even how educational systems have been built and how schools have been built and how grade systems have been built for this behavior to start coming up so early. So also, that is the guy that talks about the logic of collective action. He considers it an open question whether intermediate size groups will or will not voluntarily provide collective benefits. And his definition of it depends not on the number of actors involved, but on how noticeable each person's actions are. So if everyone in that group in the class was being seen, would they have the same behavior? Or if they could give contributions in other ways that is not the way that they find boring or that they're not excited about, would that change the dynamic of that group? What things they could create if other things were considered in this way of looking at collaboration. So I'm thinking also the pre-writer problem made me think of being a hitchhiker. I hitchhiked so much in my life, um, and that's like the literal being a free rider kind of example. You're on the road, you're getting in a car that you're not paying for that trip, and you're meeting someone new. And the biggest thing for me was always like, I always felt like I needed to give something to the person that was giving me a ride. And this exchange is way more subjective than the value of like paying for a share ride, or it's just another value. So what are the subjectivities of free riders that we are failing to see? And I think this could be a reflection for many of the communities that we see this happening so much of what is the value that we are failing on integrating? What are the multiple value flows that are happening in here? And I am focusing just on one, and through this one avenue, everything around will fall and will collapse. So these are just questions to bring it up for us to reflect, that are uh, kind of um, kind of open and connecting with the work that we've been doing in the TEC. And then another thing I thought was that transparency is not only to monitor, and we'll get there to talk about transparency as a monitoring practice, but is also to be seen. So what if we start shifting the perspective of like, oh, rules are so bad or monitoring is so bad, to like, how can we create a place where people really feel seen? And because everything is transparent, because everything is open, therefore they want to collaborate, they feel they belong, they want to participate. Yeah, so finishing the three dilemmas, tragedies, does anyone has any comments, questions?
I have a really beautiful, Olivia, and I'm sorry I didn't make more of the book club meetings. I have a really hard time understanding what a free rider looks like in the context of open source software and a DAO. I mean, who are the free riders? And I know because we talked about it at One Hive too, but I don't know who the free riders are. I don't know how to even look at that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one way to look at it would be, for example, in One Hive, that there is the source cred system, and a lot of people understood how to game the system. This is a type of free rider because they are not necessarily contributing to the expansion of the commons of the community, but they are taking the benefits from it. And then what I'm proposing is, how could we integrate this type of behavior in a way that we might be missing the value that they are contributing? And how would that look like? Would it be like approaching some of these people in a certain way? I know this is unrealistic for a lot of people. Some people, we wouldn't work to simply approach them, but what is the base structure that we need to have for people to feel comfortable participating from the very design, and not from like any type of impositions?
Yeah, I feel like this might go to the radical acceptance that we've talked about before. And I that helps a lot. That explanation helps a lot. I also feel like a lot of people, when they game the source cred, that they don't necessarily have the understanding of how the community actually works, and they're just kind of running in and seeing an opportunity to make money, and that the radical acceptance might kind of bring them around. I can't say that I've seen that happen, but I feel like it should work.
I don't want to go too deep into it, but one idea is to kind of counter the behavior by welcoming it. And what Metaverde just said, actually, and taking that one step forward with radical inclusion. Normally, I think there's a tendency with many behaviors to shame or to not accept. But if we rather rewarded these people for finding holes in the system and said, hey, thank you so much, we're going to give you some more tokens, because it's the exact opposite behavior than what you would expect, which would be exclusion in the community and kind of to ostracize these people. So if we actually made a place and kind of like judoed or aikidoed the behavior and said, we accept that and we reward it, thanks for finding the hole in the system. So if we can leverage this kind of like behavior against itself almost, or if that's coming across clearly, through the acceptance.
I also want to complement on something, and is that Ostrom says that most of the times when we think about rules, we just think on what is forbidden and what is permitted. But she talks that it's also good to add like a third wheel for making rules, that is what is required. Because if you only forbid and permit, then you let people free ride because there are no requirements in order to stay in the common pool resource or to benefit from it. So I also think that she suggests that it's not to say what cannot be done or what can be done, but also what are the requirements to join and stay in the collective and to keep profiting from it.
Yeah, I think it's great that even just briefly talking about it, of looking into another perspective, there was already 3 suggestions of how we could do this. And I think this is the most amazing point of, like, once we start opening a topic, then we open space for other alternatives to deal with it. And we should always welcome these alternatives. And I'm taking notes of what you guys said. and we can start experimenting with it. And this is the beautiful thing of being in such a like diverse community, that we can afford experimenting things until a certain point, especially now in the cultural build, and understanding so much what is the outcomes of the behaviors when they happen. So yeah, I want to just quickly introduce the 8 principles. I know it's been like hammered in so many people's minds already, but I think it's interesting to like continue to always offer ways of exploring it, because they are so rich and they are complex. So it's never just one route to take it. So the first principle is clearly defined boundaries. And I think boundaries is something so important, since the very personal level to bigger systems and to the macro level. So when you think about boundary of yourself, what are the boundaries of your body? They might be your skin or your hair. There's a little bit more out, or the sound of your voice, or how wide are the movements you can make. And there are so many layers to boundaries, right? It's not only there's also the emotional boundaries, the yeah, the subjective and the objective boundaries. So if we can find all of those for our bodies, imagine for a system. So in the system that we are at and now, that we are building, that is the TEC, this is very curious. It's like, what are the boundaries of this organism? It's alive, and it keeps moving in very dynamic directions that we have to be very attentive, paying so much attention to understand these movements and compute them in a way that will inform everyone that is joining. So just like you find healthy boundaries for yourself, and you say, no, here, this is my space. I'm until here, and then you can go here, or you can come closer. Or so this identification of boundaries in a complex system is also very dynamic, and it's been taking a lot of inputs from a lot of people involved, mostly all of the working groups, that we've been understanding, like Juan said, like what are the actions that are required, what is allowed, what is forbidden, what is it for the TEC that is too much, what is that crosses the boundary of the TEC. So this is for all of us to be aware of, and if there is any insights of this, to communicate and to continue with this process of updating the boundaries that we have. So, and one last thing is that it's a lot easier for physical communities to find these boundaries and to find the boundaries of their resource systems. But for us, it's a little bit more challenging. So even the mediums we've been using, even the Discord has its boundaries. Like there's a limit of people that can join here. There is a limit of actions you can take in these platforms, and so on. So the second principle is congruence between appropriation and provision. This is often translated just as rules, but I think it has a nice depth into seeing into congruence between appropriation and provision. That is this balance to keep it regenerative. So what is coming in and what I'm utilizing and how this flow is happening. Am I appropriating more than the provision that is coming? Am I providing so much and there's not enough movement for appropriation? So this optimal balance is what we really want, is what we want to bring to the TE community, especially. How can we advance token engineering by providing so much for them to appropriate, for us to appropriate? So for that, a certain rules are needed. You can also call these rules boundaries, but is a certain shape of what can come in and how these resources are used for this continued flow to happen. The third principle is collective choice agreements. This refers to decision making being available to everyone for this arrangement. Sorry, for this arrangements to be done by the people who will be affected by the arrangements they are making. So everyone has a say on whatever will affect the people that have a say, and vice versa. And then principle 4 is monitoring. So I will jump into the slide to talk about monitoring. Is really interesting the way she puts it, that when the rules in use conform to the design principles discussed in chapter 3, that is, people make their own agreements, and individuals adopt contingent strategies. Contingent strategies are these rules, these arrangements. Individuals are also motivated to monitor each other to obtain the information they need to pursue this contingent strategy. So she says that people have an incentive to want to monitor each other, to look what everything is happening, because they will obtain information, and information is so valuable. I need to plug my computer. Sorry, 1 second. I move around.
Also, she highlights that an important thing of monitoring is that monitors can be the appropriators themselves. That is much costly to have external monitors to monitor the provision and the appropriation of a CPR, so that it's way more way less costly to have monitoring done between the appropriators themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. And then the second point she brings is that if individuals begin monitoring others and learn that others comply most of the time with a set of rules, they are more likely to be willing to adopt and or continue the rules, the contingent strategies. So this is a concept she talks a lot about, that I like the how bold it is. She talks a lot about the suckers, or the people that take the how does she call it, there's or you comply and everyone is complying, or then no one is complying, just you, and then you become a sucker. So it's this idea of that if others do, I'll also do. And she says that by incentivizing monitoring, like mutual monitoring, everyone monitoring each other, that you can learn that others are complying, so you will feel more comfortable to comply as well. And because the rules were provided by the very people that are using them and monitoring them, you can change them as well. So if there is a rule that it's always being broken and it doesn't work anymore, there is an incentive to look collectively into that rule. But because everyone is mutually monitoring, they will have this information. So this information is valuable data about the system that they all want to cultivate because it will be a collective benefit for them. And then graduated sanctions. That is one of the roots of gravity and the importance of this Graviton training and of all the work Juanca is doing. Because with graduated sanctions, she also has something very beautiful about it. With graduated sanctions, you can have forgiving rules. You can see the provision that individuals made for this institution, for each other. You can see them as chances to forgive, and she mentions that in 2 separate parts of the book, that if individuals make honest mistakes or face personal problems that occasionally prevent them from following a rule, do not have access to mechanisms that will allow them to make up for their lack of performance in an acceptable way, rules may come to be viewed as unfair and conformance rates may decline. I think it's very beautiful, this view of like, they want to make up, let them make up. Let's have these rules, this graduated sanctions that don't have the same sanction for something very small as for something very, very big. And then the other thing is the way in which rules are enforced is forgiving of occasional lapses and errors and allows appropriators to avoid the high costs that can result from rigid application of uniform rules in a changing and uncertain environment. So this is also very important to consider this as a variable, that it's a changing and uncertain environment, and that even the word forgiving and making up brings such a human perspective to thinking of rules that already makes it feel like, oh, we all want to organize each other. We know that to organize ourselves and be autonomous in the system, we need some type of processes, boundaries, rules, mechanisms. So let's use this in our benefit and see this in our benefit. And I think this brings down a little bit this very rabble way of looking into all the rules, because the rules from the firm or the rules from the state, they've been based on this 3 dilemmas. They've been based on not believing that we can cooperate. So it's very natural that we have a reactive rebel nature against them. But when we're talking about rules that are made by the people, for the people, for something that will be a collective benefit for all, it changes this how we see ourselves inside of the system. And then 6, conflict resolution mechanisms. So this is, again, it's the whole purpose of Gravity, to provide accessible conflict management practices. And Juan once corrected me and corrected Ostrom that it's not conflict resolution, but it's conflict management, because you might not resolve a conflict, but you have all the tools to manage it in the best way. And I see so many communities, and I'm sure all of you as well, and maybe that's why you're here, seeing so many conflicts, breaking communities apart and making like very amazing projects fail, because we've been like denying this huge variable of variables of being a human that are like so complex. We are way more complex than the systems that we are calling complex. And then number 7, minimal recognition of rights to organize. So this is talking more in relation to external authorities. If we are providing our own rules, then where are we inserted in? Do we have to comply to someone? What is this? So a lot of common pool resources, they fail because people were organizing themselves and then they are going against the state rules, and then there is a problem in this relationship. So how do we assure that we are like okay in this sense? And for this, we have the legal working group that we're looking into strategies for having minimal recognition of rights. And that's why we decided to use the Commons Tax Swiss Association, because we are provided with that somehow to have a legal shield as a protection. And then number 8 is nested enterprises. And this doesn't talk so much about nested, the TEC as a whole is nested among other DAOs from the bigger ecosystem. It can also refer to that, but it's mostly about how all of these principles are like its own enterprise nested within each other. So there are layers for them to happen. It's not one single source of management that will be responsible for everything. So I'm really confident we are doing that as well, to have this multiple points of organization, of management, hence all of the working groups, and leading with this as separate things that are nested within each other. Does anyone has any questions so far?
Amazing explanation, Lily.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to agree.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I just have a comment actually, and it's to say that I feel like listening to you is a better person. And I'll pass to Dan Digital.
Yeah, I really appreciate thinking about these dilemmas in communities, and I have participated in communities a lot of times, but I never thought so deeply on the different problems that can arise, and like trying to see that everybody's working together towards a common cause. And I could have benefited from thinking about this a long time ago.
Thanks for sharing. So I will move a little bit the focus of our work into something that I think is super important and that is very inaccessible in the crypto space, in the digital space, maybe. That is spaces for introspection. So I've been reading a lot about how we are in a how do you say it, in a extroverted society, like in a society that that praises so much, but out of a balance, passing the healthy point. the extrovert states. I'm not talking about personalities, but about states of being. So whenever you're super loud or funny or even aggressive, all of the extroverted qualities, you receive attention. And we've been living in this economy of the attention that is constantly trying to capture you. We've been pulled by giving attention to so many different things, and many of them are so great. Of course, like there's so many amazing things that we all want to be a part of and be on top of. But this comes at a cost of a lot of these questions not being asked, a lot of these perspectives not being shifted, a lot of our behavior continuing to follow a way that has been following for so long, because many of the things that are capturing our attention continue to ground this narratives. So if we are trying to propose different narratives to ourselves and to change the perspectives, the safest place to go is inside, and probably the less known place, and the one that will help so much with conflict management, with understanding each other. So coming from self-knowledge as a portal to know the other, to understand the other, to put yourself in someone else's position. I used to say that acting is an exercise of empathy, because it is using the tools of understanding the other, but in your own body and in your own self. And a lot of these moments, they bring great insights, because you start to recognize your boundaries that we were speaking about before, and understand what is yours and what is not. And there's so many times where we feel triggered about something, or we feel uncomfortable about something, and they're not even us, they're not even ours. So looking with care and curiosity to ourselves helps us to look with care and curiosity to others. So I would love to propose an exercise that there is a type of theater that I like a lot, that it's called Buto. It's a Japanese type of art. It's a little bit dark if someone knows about it. I came post-war in Japan, but they use the body to reconnect with nature. And I think, and from a subjective, imagetic way. And I think it makes sense that post-war, they would want to do something like that, to express themselves and to look inside and to heal. And conflict management, it's a lot about healing as well. So I want to propose, well, all your cameras are closed. I hope everyone feels comfortable about it in your own spaces. If you are in a public space and you can't stand up or walk a little bit, or if it's going to feel weird and you're embarrassed, I don't know, you can do just the visualization of it right where you are. So I will suggest that we stand up. And for now, you can look at me, but soon you're gonna close your eyes. So make sure your feet is well planted in the floor, that you have a straight posture, you're loose, your knees are slightly bent. Stretch out a little bit. Feel your body. Feel in this comfortable position. You've been sitting for a while. And then now you're gonna scan your body. Look at your feet. Look at you. Look at your feet, your toes, your legs, your knees, your hips, your chest, your arms, your hands. Feel your head. You can massage a little bit, touch your face. And now you can close your eyes and just let the images pass. Don't judge them. Don't try. There's no right or wrong. Don't overthink. Just give a full breath to empty it out, and then I'll guide you. Now the sole of your feet, that it's very grounded in the floor, is gonna open up. Like there's 2 doors in the sole of your feet, one in each. And you open up, and everything that is inside your body is gonna fall in the earth. All your blood, all your organs, all your bones, everything is falling. But you're gonna stand. Don't worry about it. How does it feel when everything just like your body is empty? It's your skin that has an incredible force to hold you just like you are. Now you can close the doors of your feet, now that you're all empty. And then you're gonna open a door on top of your head. It's quite a wide door. So you open the top of your head, feel the air coming in this empty body. And now it starts to rain. It's raining so much, and the rain is touching the inside of your skin. And it starts to fill your body up. What is the temperature of the rain? How does it feel when each drop touches the inside of your body? How fast are you filling up? It's raining so much. Now there's thunders. Can you feel the electricity inside? Is the water calm or is it turbulent? Let the rain fill all your body. You're all full of water. Now you can close the top of your head and feel this body full of water. How is it? Does it move? Is it easy to stand up? I hope it is, because we're gonna do a little walk. How is it a step with water inside? Do you feel it bouncing in different parts of your body? Do you still feel the temperature? How is it to breathe with so much water inside? Pay attention in your boundaries. The water fills in all the space inside of you. Can you feel it better? Now you can slowly come back into standing still. If you can, you might be shaking a little bit. Give a full breath, still feeling the weight of this water and the ground. And now you're going to open the doors of your feet. And now you're going to close it. You're empty again. Stay empty for a second. And when you give a full breath, magically all your bones, organs, blood, muscles will come back into place. And you can open your eyes in your time. And I'll propose a round of sharing. If you don't want to share, it's okay. You can just pass when it comes to you. And this this is just like a little bit of a brief exercise that you can make in so many different ways. I used to make with snow and with fire and with leaves, and there's all these qualities of something that enters your body and you have to deal with that. And that helps to understand the feelings that touches. And maybe this was very brief, but it's also good to have like a journal practice after doing a body exercise, because there's a lot of insights that might come up. So I'll pass to you, Juan.
Thanks, Livy. Thanks for the exercise. I've never done this, but it is amazing, and somehow resonates to a practice that I do, that is Ho'oponopono. That it has like, it says that sometimes we load and we charge ourselves with memories that doesn't let energy flow through us, and sometimes we are charged with that old energy that doesn't let like new things come on. So it was, for me, it was very meaningful to like, for a moment when I opened the door in my feet, like feeling myself empty, and then letting myself like be filled by pure water that is something that lets energy flow through. It was like a really good exercise for me um to like let some things go and understand some new things. I got a little bit distracted when I started walking, but it was a really weird feeling to like feel myself filled with other things that uh, is not the usual that I have in me. So, is there anyone who wants to volunteer to talk?
I can go next. Man, so when the water hit my brain, it felt really weird. And it was, yeah, that wide open door It was like a cleansing moment. It felt really good. I'll pass it to Mateo.
I'll pass it back to whoever wants to start next.
I'll go.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it felt really good to have my feet open and have everything fall out. I feel like there were some things that were stuck in there. And it just really felt really good. I actually really felt everything coming out of me, blood and bones and organs and brain and everything. And then to have the water filling on the inside felt amazing, really cold. It was cold water, but it was really refreshing, like jumping into a lake. And it felt so good to be filled with that. And it was really weird walking. It felt like I couldn't, like when I was walking, everything was actually slushing around. And yeah, I really enjoyed this exercise. I've never done it like this. I have seen this in yoga, in the forward, doing a forward bend, where you feel sort of the same door on your head, but you're upside down, so things are falling out of it in that case. But yeah, I think this is a great exercise for coming back into the body. I think this is something I needed. Even just standing, I haven't even just standed up for that long in a while. So really appreciate that. And I'll pass it over to Dan Digital.
Yes, thank you. I very much needed that. When you said open the doors up on the bottom of my feet, I was just like, whoa. That's like, I mean, I've done a little bit of visualization and trying to work with energy, but opening the doors really did it for me. I don't know who hasn't gone.
To Meta Verde, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, it was, for me, it was like just a little bit warm water, and no, this was perfect. But once I was full of the water, my organs felt like they kept trying to come back in, and I was like, no, you're staying out for now. I'm just full of water. And then the same thing with like walking and it feeling the water moving around inside me. And I don't know who hasn't gone. I just thought it was funny. My organs wanted to come back. As soon as I was full of water, the organs are like, oh yeah, we want to come back.
It was incredible, Libby. When I was feeling when it started to rain, I was feeling cold, but at the same time, like it was hitting my skin. And then when I get full, I was like moving like a tornado, and it was incredible. And actually, I think combine these things with the theory, it helps a lot to retain the content. And you did an amazing explaining all the content, and thank you so much.
I wanted to thank you. That was really moving. As somebody who's worked on these different quadrants, I think the external experience so often gets forgotten. I was a training and development manager, and I can tell you, especially in human resources, we don't have a lot of self-awareness and logical senses. So this was such a powerful exercise, and I appreciate you bringing that to the community. Thank you for having me.
I'll go next. So I'll just add a little bit to what Tegral said around, I think we have this perception that our mental and physical states are disconnected, and really they support each other. If we're not physically active or present in our physical sense, sometimes our mental capacity dwindles from it or suffers from it. And then to what YG said around sort of yoga, there's many years where I did Bikram yoga, and there'd be these crazy positions you would be in, and the final conclusion was like, being at peace doesn't mean you're not in the midst of like really difficult times or hard work or impossible poses to hold. It just means that you're in that and you're still calm in your heart. Despite all the chaos and crazy around you or that you might be feeling, you can hold on to the calm in your heart. And I felt like being present like having those doorways to let go of things is kind of the trick or the key to staying calm in your heart. And I really actually appreciated that exercise. So thank you for leading us through it.
Thanks, Livia. That was really cool. I've done all kind of crazy practices, and I think this brings to light one of the challenges of being in virtual community is to still maintain, because it's so cerebral and heady, and we're kind of these weird little floating head avatars. And I think maybe sometimes we say things that we wouldn't normally say, or it's, for me, I find it's harder to kind of like have that presence and like open curiosity, especially when maybe some other tabs are open. So yeah, I think this kind of like embodiment exercises are really powerful to and so much of what I think we need in your discussion of like quantitative and qualitative is the challenge too, is like the qualitative is the intuition and the embodiment, and it's hard to recognize. And like, how do we, like you said, like how do we do this in a virtual community? So this is amazing. And yeah, I think getting in touch with the elements and these visualization practices are a great practice to start and end our time together. And it's just so refreshing, so refreshing after all this time on the screen. And yeah, thank you. And you are such an incredible teacher, the way you explain things with your storytelling. It's really beautiful. So I've learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, if anyone else wants to share, please, you're welcome. Or then I am going to give like a little bit of ending messages to this session and to this training. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. And yay, we are finalizing our 5th session. We are coming along. We are more far than near in our Graviton training. And this week I saw this chapter of The Simpsons. I just love The Simpsons, and I had to do this meme. I feel that somehow we are making like an apology class. Like, it's why is it so hard to say I'm sorry, and why is it so hard to forgive other people? Like, sometimes it happens that a person tells that they are sorry, and we like, I don't believe that they are sorry. So why is it so hard not just to say the word I'm sorry, but also to receive the word? So here in Graviton training, we are also learning to say I'm sorry and to forgive and to understand that, well, we all have these boundaries, we all have these feelings, we all have these different experiences, and like, they all are equal value, but none of them are the final truth, because all of them are just our perception of the reality that we are living. So yes, I loved this meme, and I feel that somehow saying sorry and being in this kind of spaces lets us to open ourselves to the others, and as we did today, like, also to let go things that somehow sometimes we carry with ourselves, and they are just more a burden than something that lets the energy flow through us. So yes, I wanted to share this meme with you today, because this is like a very crazy exercise to be talking about apologies, about feelings, um, about mindful communication, and we are all gathering here just to learn to be in peace with ourselves and learn to be in peace with the other ones. And I also want to say that after this class, after this training, on the 6th session, we are going to really deep dive on what is the process of gravity in the TEC. So the next session is going to be to study the value proposition that we are making in the TEC, and also like what will be the role of the gravitons, like of you, once we finish this training, and what will be like our commitments and our requirements to be able to deliver the things we are asking and we are trying to provide. I am going to try to incorporate some of Livia's slides here, because these are the slides that we have used for the training, and I just wanted to share to show also this really good slide that is the cases that Elinor Ostrom studied in her book, and how like using the 8 Ostrom principles, she analyzes why and are they're needed, and what are the conditions needed for enduring CPR institutions, and she frames it in this beautiful image, where we can see like that all of the principles are important in order to fully have sustainable CPR institutions. Also, she talks about institutional change. That's something super interesting. And she talks about the benefits of proposed rules, and also about the costs, the ex ante costs and the ex post costs. So if we had to talk only about Ostrom's work, we would have a lot to talk about. But here we are making some introductions, so that all of you can also research more on their own. And yes, I will be sending the POAPs to everyone. And I want to also thank a lot Livy for her presentation today. It was really amazing. And I want to thank everyone for coming. I will be sending you the links for the POAPs. And yes, let's all try to apply this in our everyday life, and to not be so much loaded with things that are heavy to us, but try to be like more empty to feel the energy that is flowing through us, and to not be afraid to say I'm sorry, and also to not be afraid of to forgive anyone who has said I'm sorry, because yes, it's not easy to say I'm sorry. So when someone says it to you, we should like value it, and not think like yeah, they are doing it shallow, in a shallow way, because just to do it is a big step for reconciliation. And
Thanks,
that's it.
Juan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Livy.
Thanks.
Thank you, Juan.
Thanks, Juan.